Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Fractured Realities. Once again, this is your host, Jay Warner. And like I said, before I choose to do my videos in a minimalist manner, which means I don't need intro or bumper music or flashy things. I don't use pictures. This is just me speaking to you. This is us having a conversation, conversing, sharing ideas. That's what I do. I share ideas and I share theories with people. Okay? I don't call my theories facts. But seeing there's been a lot of people lately, especially in the truther movement, who call things facts or truth. Okay. And in this day and age, considering the way people react to things that go against their narrative, whether it be religious, political, race related, or so on, people state things as facts when in fact they are theories. They are unproven. And people get violently and outrageously, and there's a lot of fighting, and I choose not to engage in too much battle online. But today there was the group Anonymous. I don't know if it's the group Anonymous, somebody calling themselves Anonymous. They have some interesting posts with theories. So I liked them, and I watch what they've. But a lot of times lately, I've been seeing a lot of narrative, which means them trying to push a certain agenda. And a lot of the truther groups I've seen have been infiltrated by these people trying to push certain agendas. Now, one thing that I've always been kind of a history buff. But I found that when I got out of high school, that most of the things that I learned in history were bullshit. They were speculation. They were theory. There was no way to prove it. And especially when it comes to ancient history, all we have is theories. All we have are speculations. And I pointed out they're trying to say that because there was an overhead view of a circular ruins in somewhere in Africa, that now that must mean undoubtedly, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that Atlantis was located in the Cape of Africa. And they even went on to say in it that, yes, they've been talking about Atlantis since ancient Roman times, which I had to point out, and I misspoke, and I said the story came from Socrates, which no, it came from Plato, who got the story secondhand from one of the mystery schools in Egypt, which Plato and Socrates both were Greek, not Roman, but the whole out of Africa theory that civilization began there is just that. There's more and more archaeological finds being found all the time that prove that this could be wrong. I mean, they found stone circles in Turkey, in the Middle East. They found them all over the place. A lot older than Stonehenge. And I'm not going to sit here and bore you and put a bunch of pictures up and go into the stone circles or what they are or what they mean. There's a lot of people who have put much more time and much more editing into their videos who can explain these. But in this thing in Africa, it's large and it fits sort of the dimensions, but what they fail to mention is there's also similar structures in Spain, in France, in Germany, and in several parts of Scandinavia. at one point there was a race of builders who created stone circles. That doesn't mean that it's Atlantis, just because Atlantis was a circle. Now, Atlantis at one time was talked about by Plato as being an island, and it was actually an island inside of a continent, which was Oceania. How that could be landlocked in the middle of Africa, which I understand climate change and how at one time it was a tropical type area, but still it doesn't fit anywhere with Plato's narrative or Plato's theory. And once again, a lot of times nowadays, people are coming out with new theories to try to support the whole out of Africa theory. And I say this as a theory because it is in itself unproven that civilization began in Africa. Okay. Now, 20 years ago, the oldest known humanoid, not human, not Homo sapien like we are, the oldest known humanoid being that they found was Eve in Ethiopia. Now, Eve was not a Homo sapien. Eve was a type of ape, okay? Except when it comes to the Neanderthals, that's something a little bit different. But Homo erectus, these were furry ape creatures with flat feet, with elongated hands and long arms, and fur covering their body. They were apes. They weren't humanoid. Well, they were humanoid, but they weren't human beings. Okay, and since then they have found older specimens in European countries, but that never gets mentioned because for so long we've been going with the theory. First, you have the theory of evolution. Okay, theory of evolution states that at some point there was a explosion in the space that sent matter out, and our world somehow attracted water, and cosmic dust fell into the water. I'm not making this up. Read the theory. And this cosmic dust turned into an amoeba or a one-celled organism. And this one-celled organism turned into a small tadpole-type creature that turned into a larger fish creature that one day decided, nah, the ocean just isn't for me. I'm going to crawl out of the ocean. Well, when it crawled out of the ocean, it found a monkey creature and got busy with the monkey creature, and thus creating the first humanoid beings. Okay, now, Charles Darwin was not a scientist. Charles Darwin was not any sort of accredited person. Charles Darwin was somebody who was a fan of Karl Marx, who saw animals and behavior on his trips. He was also very much a virulent racist and a rich elitist who, up until his 40s had a extended education, but he wasn't an anthropologist, he wasn't an archaeologist, he wasn't a scientist. This was his theory. And at the time, Karl Marx had his theory as well, and called out and said, hey, Charles Darwin's great, this sounds great. Why? Because you have the theory of conflict, the theory of evolving through domination and destroying other creatures, which is the basis for Marxism as well. So it became that. And because a lot of people adapted the Marxist philosophy, they also adapted the Darwinistic philosophy in schools. Well, history has shown us how well the Marxist philosophies have worked out. I don't have to explain General Mao to you, or what's going on in Venezuela right now, Vladimir Lenin or Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot. I mean, if you truly believe that, we keep trying this over and over again, and eventually we're going to have this great communist society where everybody's equal, all right, well, good for you. That's your narrative. That's not fact-based. The facts do prove that at least in the 20th century, over 200 million people met their demise as a result of this philosophy, because people who grasp on to the Marxist, Darwinist theories violently battle those who don't. And mainstream scientists also do whatever they can, like Cheddar Man, the ancient Brit that was found. And all of a sudden, two professors come out and say, well, he was a black man. And they show this, white featured, dark skinned person with blue eyes who they say is it. And I don't know much about science myself, but what I did find out is I did a little research on these two scientists that came out with this find that said that he was African American, and both are very outspoken immigration people. They want the European borders opened up and the world to come in. Okay. Now, we can fight all day long about Darwinism. Is it real? Is it not real? Okay, yes, we do have DNA that coincides with that of an ape. We also have DNA strands that coincide with a sunflower. Does that mean that at one time we were sunflowers? Does it mean at one time we were fish? I mean, we could go on and on about this, but this is unproven. They've never found the so-called missing link. And then you have the out of Africa theory. The first humanoids formed these tribalistic groups and traveled out of Africa all the way, which why they would travel out of a paradise in Africa up into frozen ass Scandinavia is beyond me. And trying to say that they evolved from African types into Caucasians because of the weather, which that doesn't really add up to me, because why are the Inuits who came over from, I believe, like Mongolia over an ice bridge into frozen ass Alaska, and they've been there for 13,000, they haven't, their skin color hasn't lightened. So I mean, where do Caucasians come from? They say the Caucasus Mountains, that one of these small tribes in Africa went into the Caucasus Mountains and lost their pigmentation. Which, like I said, once again, that is a theory. But there have been Caucasoid or Caucasian or white, I believe would be a better way to put it, bodies that have been found throughout the world, in China and South America, as well as giant remains, 6-7 foot people or creatures. Some they say are larger. Because according to what they say, the Smithsonian comes and snatches up these bones, but they were red-haired and blue-eyed, every single one of them. Color of their skin, who knows? I mean, that's all speculation, but red-haired and blue-eyed would to me imply that it could be a Caucasian person. Now, as well as the old pharaohs and the mummies. They've done DNA testing on them and found out that their haplogroups go back to Ireland. They are more closely related to modern Brits, Saxons, Gauls, and Celts than they are the modern Nubians or Middle Eastern inhabitants of Egypt. That's right. You can look this up. This isn't something that I'm making up. But lately, it seems like the globalist agenda is one of I don't know. This is the only way to put it. It's an anti-white or anti-Caucasian agenda. They seem to be taking their magic eraser and erasing us from history. And I believe that this whole Atlantis was in Africa thing is also part of that. No, it's nothing about racial superiority. It's nothing about being a racist person. But it is what it is. Where Caucasians seem to be being unwritten from history because it's narrative. Why? Because white people tend to rebel. We rebel against governments. Like the people in the United States, which were mixed. I understand that there were Native Americans, there were Chinese, there were African Americans here who rebelled against the Brits. Then we had a civil war where we rebelled against each other. See, white people are critical thinkers. We do tend to say it. And sometimes I think that we're too much critical thinkers, to where we absorb these narratives that tell us that we're evil and that we're bad and that we need to be exterminated. I just read another article from a girl in Pennsylvania at a college who said white people white people need to shut up. White males have no reason to say anything. Well, that college that you were attending was built by white males. Okay, yes, I'm not denying any sort of evil that has been done in history, but other nationalities have also created evil. So now history is being rewritten as narrative. History is being rewritten in order to push this political, borderless, nationless agenda. Why? Because when you have a whole bunch of mixed people and people don't have any identities or any tribe to cling to, and this includes all of us, not just the Caucasians, but when you have no identity to cling to, it's easier to control a large group of mixed people. And I haven't talked a whole lot about what's going on in Europe, which, I have Scandinavian, German, Irish roots. I also have Native American roots. But it's really sad how civilization is being destroyed because a bunch of globalist bankers who fund globalist politicians from the EU, the United States, Australia, and other countries believe that we're losing power, we're losing our grip. You have this thing called the internet now, where people can talk about anything and where truths tend to get out. A lot of it's bullshit. I don't believe 9/10 of what I hear. But it has been proven that you do have a certain amount of people who control the financial institutions of the world. These globalist bankers, the Rothschilds. You have the Fords, the Carnegies, Soros, and they're the ones who are creating this division. And also, where does the funding for these colleges come from? They come from these same groups who just pour money into them, and because of course they could pour money. Money doesn't mean anything when you could create it out of thin air, which is fiat currency, which is what the World Bank is. It's money created out of the air. So yes, they control the religions, they control the news media, they control social media, and they control you. So here we are arguing about where Atlantis is, and somebody tells me, I say, well, maybe it was part of Lemuria. Lemuria was actually an older civilization that's been talked about that was in the southern hemisphere of the world instead of the northern hemisphere where Atlantis was said to be in, around the Mediterranean Sea. Lemuria would have been somewhere down there near Africa, India, like where there's a little chunk, because if you put all the countries together, you're missing a little chunk there. That would have been Lemuria, which I believe at one point it was said that the Lemurians, who were already ancient civilization when the Atlantean civilization was at its peak, went to war with them. The Atlanteans won the war, and it was insinuated with great blasts and weapons of mass destruction, which, if you look at the site, it looks like it was a bombed out site, more so than ruins. It looks like somebody dropped a nuclear bomb there. And in case people say, oh yeah, nuclear fusion wasn't invented until Einstein, but they have found areas in the desert in India where there are nuclear isotopes that are thousands of years old. And if you are a student of the Vedas, you'll know that they talk about great light and great explosions in the war of the gods. So I believe that at one time there were a war of ancient civilizations that probably took place. I mean, I believe Africa probably would have been ground zero for this. But in my opinion, the Europeans, or the whites, the white Mediterranean Celts, Nords, those are descendants of, like I said, this is my opinion, this is my theory. I don't spout this as fact. I believe that they migrated from west to east. And of course there was some mixing in places like India, where if you go to southern India, you have more dark-skinned people. And you go to northern India, you have people with blonde hair, blue eyes, and it was the Aryan migration. So I mean, we've all been mixed through at some point. But to still cling to this nearly 200-year-old theory that we were all ape-like tribes that came out of Africa, I think is pushing it a little bit, especially when they found old ruins in Turkey and other places in Europe and in Asia that kind of blow this theory away, that speak of advanced civilizations, that there were advanced civilizations. Now, when people talk about Europe and the megaliths, I mean, these things were created, some of them, long time. And what you look at the history and the narrative of history, it's told from the Roman point of view, where everything was a grass hut. We all lived in mud huts and ate nothing but fish and hunted wild animals. But as time goes by, more archaeological finds are being discovered that disprove that theory, that in fact the Romans built on top of that, or studied pagan, or what they call the tribes, or the barbarians, and built on top of that. Now, like I said, this is a theory, but you can look and here's another example. They tell us that the Sphinx was built some 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, but they find watermarks and weathering on the bottom of it, which means that the last time before the ice melted, when it was subtropical, would have had to have been literally 15,000 plus years. So nobody can say what's truth and what's narrative when we're talking about ancient history unless you're 15,000 years old. And if you're 15,000 years old, please contact me and let's have a long conversation. I'm sure you have a lot of shit to say. So that's it in a nutshell. What we have to do is we all find our own truths. We all find our own speculations. But attacking other people online, saying you're wrong or you're stupid or you're a fool, that's counterproductive. That's globalists who push agendas and try to push buttons. They try to trigger you. They try to get you to fight. Like I mentioned in my last video, the Covington kids. What a shit show that was, and how the mainstream media pushes the race narrative. It's ridiculous. Here's my theory and my thoughts on race. Okay, and on genders, on different social statuses. If you want to be a decent person, here's what you do. Whether somebody's white or black, gay, straight, Catholic, Jew, Protestant, Muslim, treat everyone the same. If you don't treat them the same because they're different than yourself, you're an asshole. If you treat them worse. But if you treat them better or coddle them or put them on a pedestal, you are also an asshole because you are separating them from yourselves. See, either you are a human and you accept everybody and everything as an equal human, or you put people on a pedestal and you coddle to them. But nah, if you want to be a true person, treat everyone the same until they prove to be an asshole. Being a human is about content of character. It's about your spirit. It's not about your skin color. It's not about that. Whites are not intrinsically evil. Blacks are not intrinsically magic because of the pigment of their skin. Arabs are not... we all meet people who break the molds. I've worked with a lot of African Americans who are great people, who aren't on this whole race bullshit, divide shit. And I didn't think to myself and look at that person and say, yeah, that's that black guy. My mind doesn't work that way. And if your mind works that way, you're a fucking racist. You're an idiot. Whether your mind works in the way to say, oh, I need to help the poor black people. Black people don't need you to fucking save them. They're doing fine for themselves. Black people don't need you to lead the way and give them things and throw them fucking pennies and money. Nor do any other races. What they need you to do is treat them as equal and let them come up to the same standards. Let them be, we have billionaires in this country. Look at Dr. Dre. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Look at Barack Obama. These people have made it to the top. What is race? So somebody doesn't like you because of your race. I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood and I went to black schools. People didn't like me because of my race. Did that fucking change my life intrinsically? No. People are what they are. Do I hate people because of that? No. Not because of a couple assholes. So why do people insist on hating on white people because of fucking ancient history? Now, the shit that happened to me as a kid some 30 years ago. I've been jumped because of the fact that I'm Caucasian. I've been called white trash by teachers, by fucking people who taught in the Cleveland public school system, by administrators. I don't hate black people. I don't hate anybody. People are fucking people. And until we get over this whole race separation bullshit and this whole narrative to keep us separated, we're not gonna don't worry about being that. If you want to associate with your group, that's fine. I don't have a problem with white separatists and I don't have a problem with black separatists. I don't have a problem with Professor Griff trying to save the black people. I think he's doing good things. So's Louis Farrakhan for his people. He might not like the Jews, he might not like the whites, but hey, that's none of my business. If you're trying to do good things for your community, that's fine, regardless of the race of that community. You can be a human being and you can be part of a mixed culture. Or if you choose to live separate from that mixed culture, within your own tribal groups, that's fine. And that's understandable. But when the government and history and religion try to push that on you, that's when problems occur. You don't move people from countries with less civilization, less laws, less understanding into civilized Western cultures and expect it to work. It's not. The globalist agenda is bullshit. It's an agenda to control and enslave us all. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with whites or destroying white holds. I mean, come on. I have never, in this whole talk of fucking white privilege, this is absolute nonsense. And when you see people talk about how come it is when you hear the word white privilege, 9 times out of 10 it's coming from a lily white cream cheese looking motherfucker who's in college, a middle class kid who had his way paid through college. Yes, maybe that particular person feels guilty because they had privilege or they had money, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. 60% of the motherfucking people on welfare in this country are white people living in trailers, not black people in the projects. So there are the haves and the have-nots. Do I hate the people who have money? No, I'm not going to turn on people because they have money or they were a success in life. I want to bring myself up. I want to be a success. I want to be a millionaire. Will I ever achieve that? Probably not. But it's not because I've been intrinsically held down by the system or propped up by the system because of the color of my skin. It's because of the fucking decisions that I make. You're either a success or you're a failure in this world. So if you want to continue to believe theories as facts or narratives as facts, that's up to you. But don't attack people when they try to present a different point of view. Okay? Now, on this channel, I would love to have somebody who, say, a flat earther, out of Africa theory, somebody who believes in the theory of evolution, or somebody who believes in the theory of creation, which I don't believe that any more than I believe the theory of evolution. Do I have the answers? No, I don't, but I don't believe. Anybody who wants to debate me, that's fine. I will install Skype on here. I would love to have you on the channel. You can debate me. Now, debating doesn't mean screaming. It doesn't mean bashing or being an asshole or telling me I have an agenda or that I'm part of the Illuminati or that I'm a Satanist or any of the other shit. If you want to have a true analytical conversation and we can exchange ideas or points of view, that's fine. I am all about it. Anybody who wants to debate me on any subject is fine. Or anybody who wants to actually come on and talk to me and share ideas, that's fine. Because, okay, we have the truth movement. I believe that the truth movement is a powerful thing. If it wasn't a powerful thing, YouTube wouldn't be trying to take down what they call conspiracy theory videos. Now, we can either fight over aesthetics and bullshit and theories and speculations, or we could start coming together. Now, I was going to do a video and do a question and answer type thing where people could, ask me a question. I'll answer anything. I've been very open about my life. I've been very open about many of the struggles of my life. I want participation. I want people who are in the truth, whether I agree with you or not. I have a lot of friends on social media who I don't agree with, who are far left or far right, who I just don't agree with politically, who are part of religious groups who I'm not a religious person, I'm not a leftist, I'm not a rightist, I'm sort of a centrist, agnostic, pagan, opinionated asshole, if you want to really put it the truth. That doesn't mean that I don't respect other people or respect other people's views. See, and that seems to be where the truth movement, especially with the flat earthers and the mud flood people who are just so into their narrative that if you present thoughts or present facts opposing that, they immediately shut you down, tell you you're brainwashed, you're stupid. And see, that's not necessary. I'm not saying that all flat earthers are like that or all mud flooders are like that. But see, people, we're all being targeted. Whether it's folks like myself, Laszlo, Kara Winters, Spindle and Renee, Tony Taylor. I could go on and on. Mystic Souls, the people who talk about Mandela effects, and as well as some of the people who talk about the flat earth. We're all being lumped together. We're all being targeted. Why does the government not want us to talk about what we're talking about? I don't know, but there's truth. So my theory is this: we need to all, sure, we can have debates, we can have discourse and not agree on everything, but that doesn't mean that you're right or you're wrong. What means is, regardless of the shape of the earth, regardless of your religion, regardless of your race, if you are somebody who's seeking truth and seeking enlightenment, we need to ignore these historical narratives that they change day by day. We need to ignore these themes that divide us, and we need to come together. I would love to do videos with somebody. If anybody wants me to do a video on your channel, you want to debate me, that's fine. Just contact me. I'm not a hard person to get along with. I'm not hard to contact either. I try to respond to every comment, every question on my channel. I do work a lot of hours, so sometimes it takes me a few days, but I do try to respond to everything. And if I disagree with you, I'll respectfully disagree. I'm not going to call anybody an idiot. I'm not going to scream or yell at anybody. It is what it is. We can agree to disagree, even when it comes to history, because history is story. History is a narrative that was written, especially ancient history. So you can let it divide you, and you can believe everything you hear, or you can listen to other points of view. And you could form your own theories based on that. And that's my point. Instead of fighting with each other and arguing on anonymous posts or truther posts about these things, we need to come together. We need to have some unity, because I've seen a lot of fighting, especially within the Mandela community, with flat earthers, with spiritualists, with people who talk about Pleiadians, talk about aliens. It's just so much divide. There's so many people who, when somebody disagrees with their narrative, they get nasty, and that's not where we need to be. We need to start coming together, and we need to start seeing who the true enemies are. The true enemies aren't hidden satanic groups. They aren't frickin' whites, they aren't blacks, they aren't Arabs, they aren't Christians, they aren't Muslims, they aren't Jews. They are globalist bankers who control everything that you see and you hear. Yes, most of those bankers do happen to be Zionists, but that doesn't, like I said, that doesn't reflect on all Jews. I'm not going to put that out there and say that Jewish people are the cause of the problem. They're not. You know, Bernie, who makes your corned beef sandwiches in the deli in Manhattan, is not part of a fucking agenda to rule your life. He's a hard-working man just like you. And like I said, so I'm not going to go into that whole, Jews are the enemy. Even though a lot of the people who are Zionists, the separatists who believe that Israel needs to be their own country, do control the world banks from there. So, and there's been a lot of videos that have came out and a lot of people that have already explained. That's my daughter getting something out of the fridge in case anybody's wondering, not a ghost. Those names of the Bilderbergs, the people that they call the New World Order, or mistakenly the Illuminati, which isn't a thing. The Illuminati was a Bavarian group of scientists and earth speculators historical speculators like myself, who formed a group that went against the Catholic Church at the time. That's what the Illuminati is. Now, when you talk about people who do the symbols or that goes back to ancient cultures and magic and deflection spells, things like that. That's completely different. But if you're worrying about the Illuminati and not the Bilderbergs, the people who get together every year in buildings and decide the fate of the world, then you're misleading. If you want to chase around mysterious boogeymen and invisible men and these so-called Satanist groups, or Luciferians, as I've heard popping up time and time again, which are completely separate things, but I'll cover that in another video. If you want to chase that around, that's fine. But if you want to look at the true people that we know are making decisions, that are making laws, that are making bases that are changing the literal civilization of the world, that are trying to destroy the United States, that are trying to destroy Europe, that are trying to destroy Australia, that are making their inroads into different countries, that are propping up different governments. It's not just within our country. It's not just within Israel. It's not just within Great Britain, even though those are the three countries that are intrinsically involved in this. But I'm going off on a lot of different tangents, and I apologize for that. I have a lot to say, and I'm trying not to make this video overly long. But my point is this. Instead of arguing about history, his story, not truth, but narrative, let's all stick together. Let's come together. Let's have roundtable discussions. Let's do something. Because unless you're a multi-billionaire who lives in a gated community, you're under attack. Your civilization is under attack. So we can fight amongst each other for the scraps that the elitists throw on us. Make it rain on the poor people like a fucking stripper pole. Or we could come together and we could start discussing who our true enemies are and putting some of these people's faces out, trying to educate other people who don't know, people who just look at the Facebook histories or just learn what they learn in school or just learn what they learn in churches. We can help those people. We can reach out. We can make more global awareness. Maybe we could actually learn some real histories that have been held back from us. So let's stick together. Let's become one. Let's have some unity. You can be a nationalist. You can live in your own country and be proud of your own country. You can be proud of your own race and still be a human being and reach out to other human beings and do that. So let's stop name calling and let's stop the bullshit and let's come together and try to learn some real truths instead of speculations and theories. Until all then we're just tinfoil hat fuckers. But if we come together, we can become a lot stronger. So I'm reaching out to other YouTubers, other creators, other people in the truth movement, other alternative historians. Let's come together. Let's make something. Let's create content and let's help people. Let's educate people on history. Thank you so much. Once again, this is, I apologize for my ramblings. This is unscripted. But until next time, history is his story, not yours. Write your own. Let's create a new one. Let's create the new paradigm. Thank you all. I love you. And until next time, this is Jay Warner, signing off.